In this video, I'm taking the engine out of my 750cc 1975 Triumph Bonneville. In the previous video, I did take the tank, the carbs and the exhaust off. So if you're looking to take your engine out, it'd be worth watching that first to see what kind of things I had to do there. But hey, here I'm going to get on with this. Those of you that are following the series will know it's an import bike. I actually got it when there was a bit of snow on the ground. I might even put a little bit of video of that here. But I did manage to get it registered within 4 weeks of actually receiving it. I used my own method that I've documented in a V55 video, so you might want to look for that. Worked a treat. There's a few of these that I've registered over the years, and exactly the same process every time, and it works brilliantly for me this time. Might be worth your while having a look. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do with this. I'd seen it, I got it at what I thought was a good price at the time. The market's definitely eased, so I probably overpaid a little bit. I did say whether I was going to perhaps do a restoration, just get it going, and it isn't quite good enough for that, so I went against that idea. Restoration wasn't really the thing, and I don't want to strip it and put it back together and leave it in a rusty condition, so it's out of the question. Which leaves restoration and modification. Well, there are quite a few 70s Bonnevilles about. I could go the restoration route. That probably would make the more valuable final bike. However, if you start getting nitpicking about specific details, it can add cost into what you're doing, and might not really be what you want to end up with at the end of the day. I think I'm going to go the modification route. Most of the most of the comments, shall we say, were about modification. There was perhaps, 20-25% restoration, the rest were mostly modification. And nobody seems to think to make it into a cafe racer, and I agree with them. So we think we're going to go for a modern street bike, come desert sled, come flat tracker, come scrambler. And I think I'm going to call it a street scrambler. You don't like that? Let me know. But I think that it's going to take design cues from all of those things. Now, I'm taking the engine out because we only have a short-lived summer in the UK, and I have to do all my painting outside. I really want to try and get the frame painted before the summer ends. I can potentially work on the engine in the winter when we get to it, but I can't paint the frame then. So anything that's painted, perhaps other than the tank, I may try to get done in the next few weeks. So engine's coming out. Let me tell you a little bit though about the problems I've had with the cylinder head. From the last video, if you've watched that, you'll know I was hoping to get it off and didn't. The clocks on this bike indicate 342 miles, and I'm hoping that means 342 miles since the engine had a good refresh. That might actually be 30 odd years ago, but that's what I'm hoping. I intended to take the head off to have a look at the bores and the pistons and the valves and everything to see if it looked like it was a viable engine. Unfortunately, the head's completely stuck on. Now, those of you that know about these engines will know that outside here it would normally have bolts going down, and obviously when it's had work on this engine, it's had stainless steel studs put in. Now, one of the issues you can get with these heads is that these studs go through quite a long tunnel down to the barrel, and stainless and aluminium can corrode and virtually weld together, and I think that that's what my problem is. My intention is when I take the engine out is I'm actually going to take the barrel and the head off. I might end up where I have to replace both of them. I am thinking though I will get these apart, but we'll have to see. May have to go to destructive methods. I have tried with the two nut method of trying to do these. I didn't want to destroy them, and when you were getting to sort of all your body weight and grunting and groaning, nothing's happening. I thought I'll Valor's the best part, you know, a bit of discretion, so I held back from that. I have heated, I have cooled. Someone suggested putting air in through the, I have actually had a go at that, but it was not successful at all for me. Turning the engine over, I haven't gone for the rope trick because I think that these are holding them in far too much. So I've not, you know, I don't want to go to too hard a physical effort. I think when I've got the engine on the bench and I take the barrel and the head off together, I'll probably be able to do something to get them apart. Even if in the end I have to saw the barrels off or something, I'm sure I'll do something. We'll see when we get to it. In the meantime though, I'm just intending, let's get the engine out. They are fairly simple machines, and basically you have to work from both sides to actually remove the engine. The final thing I'll take out are actually the mounting bolts to the frame. I'll basically work from the front to the back. So I'm looking at things where oil pressure wiring, ignition wiring will need to come out. Throttle was already dismantled and taken out, so that's not there. Moving further on, there are 2 oil lines under here that will have to come out. The clutch cable will have to come out from this side, and while I can see it, this breather will have to come out. Then there's a plate here that mounts it to the frame, so they'll have to come off. So I think I'll take that off. I might have to remove the rear brake to get this out, so I might have to take the brake pedal off. Yeah, all in all, it's not too difficult. Oh, there's a wiring for the generator and such like as well. So it's not too difficult, just be systematic. Anything that's holding something heavy, leave that till last. So I think I'll start with these wires. But before I do that, I'm going to put some WD-40 on everything that looks like it might need to be undone. Now, this is simply the oil pressure switch. Basically, it earths it or removes the earth, so that's easy enough. Then we've got these, which are the ignition wires, and what I'll have to do is follow them up, cut the cable ties, and then disconnect them at the top. It's these 2 connectors here, which after a bit of, there we go, that wire should just pull through. Doubt I'll reuse the cable, but if I can, I possibly will. So I'll just pop this off here like that, and then we can go and have a look at the other end. And the other end of the clutch cable lives in here, and surprisingly everything that I've come to undo apart from the cylinder head is fairly loose. Normally takes a bit more effort to take one of them off. The other end of the clutch cable's here on the actuating arm, so I need to just loosen this off, and then you can push this out, and I should be able to unscrew it here, I think. I'll put the cover back in. I try to leave everything I can where it came from until I actually really need to have it off, because otherwise you can just bloody lose them. I've just loosened the front engine mounting bolt, and it's an 11/16 on this side, and typically it's actually a 5/8 on the other. So I just want to loosen it off, so let's see how we go on. Might just do. No, I didn't need the one on the other side. So that's going to be okay. When taking this off eventually, there's actually 2 spacers. The thicker ones on this side, I know I'll mention that again, but you can get confused. It moves the engine across the frame. So a thicker spacer on this side. One of the things we always forget when we have a lift, it has 2 positions. If you have it high enough, make it higher. Excellent. I'll undo this middle engine mounting bolt, 11/16, and the other side's 11/16. I have put a spanner on there, but I've got no one to hold it at the moment. It should be okay. See, none of these are massively tight. Frequently I've had to, have battles. So that's nice and loose as well. Remembering, when you take these out, there are two spacers here as well, like at the front. The bigger one on this side. I'm going to start with the rear brake lever. This one's a 9/16. I do try to always use sockets with 6 sides if possible. Not always necessary, but any damage you do prevent, the better. And again, this isn't anything that's very tight. It's a lock nut, a washer. It's a square in there. Now it might need a puller or it might need a bit of persuasion with a hammer. Let's have a look. It isn't for giving up easy, so I want to put a bit of heat on it as well. So rather than burn all this, I'm going to take the rear brake light switch off. And amazingly, the screws came undone without stripping. Nice little spacer, must try and remember that. Hand that down out of the way. Let's get some heat on it. A little bit of WD just into there. It also helps cool the middle bit down. Bit of tappy. And back to wiggle and wiggle. Now it is coming. You may not believe me, but it is. I'll probably knock the camera over when it lets go. I can tell by the gap at the other side getting bigger. There you go, you didn't believe me. And I'll be honest, I didn't even believe myself sometimes. There we go. Wasn't that easy? Next I'll take off the footrest. Let's go for the 2-foot breaker bar. And if you listen carefully, you can hear my clock. I don't know what time that alarm's set for. Gosh, I'm surprised. And typically there is a nut on the other end, or a head. After a lot of fiddling, I got the round end of a combination spanner on the one on the other end. Watch it hurt my fingers now. That's coming off. Can't tell you how that hurts your thumb. Oh. Luxury. I'm sure if you played with these every day, you would know exactly how to get on that. Next I'll undo these two oil lines from the oil pump. The back one is the return that goes up to the top of the tank. The front one is fed from the bottom of the frame where the oil's kept inside. That's that off. Cut down as far as I can. There we go. Look how long that is. Bloody hell. And here comes the oil. Just like I said. Yeah, we got it off. Well, it's gravity gonna go with it, I think. I'll take the other one off. See if I can pull that. Oh, that's coming just with me. Sorry for breathing so heavy. Go on. Whatever you put underneath, it'll find a way to go somewhere else. The final thing on this side to undo is to take off this plate. So I think they're all 1/2 inch and they all probably have nuts at the back, but let's give them a bit of a blast anyway. Yeah, that's spinning like a good one. That one's not playing at all. We'll take that all the way out because I can see it. There we go. Suspect I might either replate or replace. That was hopeful. So I've removed all the bolts there apart from this one, and I can't get to the other side of that. Now this is going through to the rear brake actuation. I do remember fiddling about with one of these in the past, but not taking the engine out. I think I'm going to have to remove the master cylinder for the rear brake so I can get at the back of this. Now, rather than raunch around, I think to get at the master cylinder, I'm going to take the back wheel out. And this is an 11/16. Not too bad. There you go. So even though we have washed this a couple of times, there's still the remnants of mud daubers, so wherever they live in the States, that must be you know, where this bike lived. This chain off so that I can get a better look. So this is the rear brake master cylinder, and there's the actuating arm that goes through that plate that I'm trying to get off. Now I think I can probably undo this so that this arm will come off, and that spring's a devil of a job to put back on, but it's all coming off anyway. But I can also undo that nut up there and take that out, and I should be able to go that way. And it's a 9/16. Typical. Let's try it with this. My previous experience with one of these, there was a lot more rust than this, so I'm maybe having it easy. Won't do it with my fingers. There's a washer as well. So I'll see if I can pull it out from the other side. It's a 1 inch and 1/8. Hey, can you believe it? I've actually got a spanner of that size. He says. So if my hand's getting a bit near that. Alright, well, I've got it out to that far. Now this spring is a bit of a bugger to put back on, or it was for me. We'll see. It's hooked over there and hooked over here, so I think that goes forward, this comes back. What I'll do is I'll undo this next. These are 1/2 inch and not matched up bonds. Got a 6-sided socket. Let's just see, I might have to get something on the other side of it. Looks like that might be the case. Bolt ends are at this end. There's one here, one hidden behind this, and they're 1/2 inch as well. So that one's easy enough to get on. The top one, well, I'll be able to do something to hold it steady. That's one. And that's two. Now the bottom one comes out no problem. It's clear of the frame. Now the top one definitely won't. So let's just see. It is almost there. I'm sure you probably should take the other part off first. No, I don't think I'm going to get that from there. So let's have a look somewhere else and see what's going on with this. Now, looking at this, I think I can pry that spring that way. Have to make sure you've got eye protection on. Not easier than I expected. And let's just see if I can push that. There we go. That's how you get the spring off. Getting it back on, I'm sure it won't be that easy. So now it comes off a treat. Well, this plate is still hiding the back of that one nut and bolt I'm trying to undo. So I think my next thing is to undo this one here, and hopefully this whole plate will come off. I'm trying to keep in mind how that might go back together. Is there another one at that end? No, it's already out. So let's undo that and see if it just falls off. 1/2 inch. And that plate does come out after all that. I'm just going to take the feed pipe for the brake fluid. Now I know in principle it should be full of brake fluid. My guessing is it isn't. I will be replacing it, as you can imagine. I think it's going to be just a bit perished. So it's plastic this, so you do have to be careful and not cut too deep. I'm sure that should do it. What's your guess? Brake fluid? No brake fluid. Oh, looks more like water.
there's the back of that nut I was trying to undo for the engine plate. I cannot see any other way of getting at that other than removing the rear master cylinder. If there is a trick, I'd love to know it, and I'm sure someone might tell me, but there's a boss there and a boss there, so you can't get in from the top, you can't get in from there, you can't get in through the frame, you can't get in through the engine. Can't see any other way. There we go. And with that plate, everything is off this side of the engine. I've undone the main mounting bolts, so I can come back to them. I'll probably do that breather next because I'm stood on this side. Then I'll move around the other side. Quite interesting. Obviously, the design of this evolved over time, and putting a rear disc brake on was actually quite a challenge, and putting the brake on the opposite side was probably quite a challenge. So I can understand why you might have to do all that stripping to get to that. It's needs must, I suspect. It's a bit frustrating, and if you've got a better way of getting this plate off on a disc brake rear, let me know in the comments, because I'd really like to know. I'm going to take the oil pressure switch out as well. It looks ripe to get damaged while you're launching the engine around. That is an interesting one. 9/16 seems far too big. 1/2 inch won't go on. So I decided to use a trusty Imperial 8-inch adjustable spanner. And the other thing that I found interesting is it's hardly in at all. Again, sort of an indication that someone's put this engine together and not necessarily over tightened everything. So I'll just whip that off, and then I'll get around the other side. On this side there's a little bit less to do. It's to take the tachometer, the rev counter cable off. I've already loosened these, so that's okay. So there's the footrest and there's the plate that holds the back of the engine on. And this time I've got no confusion about brake levers or anything like that, because that's all on the other side. So whip this off, whip that off, undo, and we should be loose and ready to go. I found that this was too big for the 9/16 and really too small for the 5/8. So I'm back to the adjustable again. They're okay, these, if you've got a reasonable quality one and you make sure it's nice and tight. Oh well, that's reasonably loose. And we're off. First I'll take the footrest off. It's 3/4. You need a relatively thin wall socket to fit in besides the footrest, and of course you need something on the other side as well. So there we go, that was easy enough. This engine plate has 5 bolts through from the other side with nuts on this side, 1/2 inch. So let's see how we go on with these. I might need to crack them with something else first. Oh, you heard it crack. That's that one started. Oh. Don't tell me I've got to take the chain guard off to get at it. Oh, maybe not. Let's see. It's not looking promising. No. Let's just have a go. Now I can see it turning. Right. take a bit of raunching, but I'm sure I'll get all of these off. That one must be rusted on the other side or something. Well, compared to the other side, this side actually was quite easy. With the last engine plate off, now ready to actually take the engine out. Just undo the front mounting bolt and the one that goes through underneath, have it loose in the frame, and then get somebody else to come and give me a hand while I juggle it. This isn't as heavy as the CB750 engine, I can assure you. However, it's heavy enough and I'm not going to play with it on my own, so I need to get a bit of help. I'm going to take this top engine mount out first and then probably just slip the bolt back through. Looking at it from this angle, you can see the two different spacers, which will come in handy in the future. So the weight isn't just sat on the bolts. I've shoved one of these lift things underneath with just one end, just under the engine, just to take the weight. So it should make it easier to come out. Now I'm going to leave this punch in, I think. So before I do, take it out. There's one of my spacers. So for now, I'll just leave that punch in place, and as you can see, the thicker spacer and the thinner spacer that's come out of there, I'll leave them together for now. So let's just rip that off. Yeah, finger tight now. Now I've got the engine supported on that, so it's possible, unlikely, but possible. See if I can pull it from the other side. Oops. And there are a couple of spacers that may fall out. There we go. We have a loose engine in the frame. I'll lower it down and see how we can go on. There's the two spacers and the bigger one on the right hand side as you're looking forward. So I'll just pop them on there. I'm thinking I'll take the engine out this way. So I'm going to take the gear change off so that I can lie it on without it getting too much in the way. And it's a 7/16 for anyone who's keeping score. And there we go, that's that off. Next thing to do is lower it down towards the ground, because if you're going to drop it, you don't want to drop it too far. Going down. I intend to pull it out and put it on the floor on this side. So I'll probably push it a little bit further that way. I'll go and get someone to just give me a hand so that, you know, if I start losing it, they can at least grab hold. Right then, the intention is pick it up, swivel it this way and put it down there. Now, if I hold it by the cylinder head, do you think it'll fall off? I suspect not, but I'm not really intending to do a lot by there. So I've got my dearly beloved to give me a hand. Let's crack on. Oh, I've sloped the handlebars forward so that they're not in the way as well. Right, if you could pull out that thing.
Where do you want me to hold the actual engine?
No, just pull out.
Just pull that out.
Alright. Get hold of the kickstart.
Yeah, got that.
Right. Now we need to come up at the front. And drag this way. Just hang on a sec. And oh, by the way, 130 pounds, 58 kilos. Damn sight easier than the CB. There we go. What was all the fuss about? Unlike my last video, I fulfilled the promise. The engine is out, it's on the ground.
It was a bit of a faff, but as for taking engines out of bikes, that wasn't bad at all. It's a really nice size to work with, one of these. So next I'm going to get it into an engine stand, decide whether I'm going to have a go at the barrels in the head or I'm going to do a bit more on the frame. Not sure yet. Now, either way, why not subscribe, follow along, have a look at some of our other projects. We do get up to what we think is interesting stuff. But anyway, take care.